Hi, I'm Kenny Klaus, and this is State 48 Homeowner. Hey everybody, welcome back. Kenny Klaus here. We got a very, very special guest today. Me and Scott are excited to have this gentleman here. We're actually both clients, and so that makes it even a little more exciting. We're going to talk a little bit about what is a self-directed IRA. After 22 years of being in real estate myself, probably, 10, 12 years into the business, I saw a class around self-directed IRA, and I thought to myself, all right, well, I need to get more educated in this space so that I have every tool available in the toolbox to be able to share with my clients to help them ultimately achieve the American dream and build wealth through home ownership. So I went to the class and sat there as a student and just really listened to what the presentation was about. It was super intriguing to me, knowing that, an IRA, which I had at my previous employer, it was kind of managed. I put money away and I thought, I'm doing a great thing. It's what my dad did and his dad did, and, just kind of followed the herd. And, one of the big things in my journey has been really just not taking things on the surface, but really trying to dive in a little bit deeper and really spend time and get educated, not only for myself, but ultimately to, like I said, add value to the relationships in my life, including my team and our clients and friends. And so really understanding the self-directed IRA can be a little bit new, a little bit overwhelming at first, which, pushes a lot of people to just skip it. I'm proud that you're taking the time to listen to this today and at least get some information, get a little bit educated on the subject, and then make a decision if it's, right for you and your family. For me personally, I did move my IRA over to Vantage IRAs and do a self-directed IRA. And I looked at it as, well, man, I can use this for lending money. I can use this to potentially pay off debt if I needed to. I looked at it to buy real estate, which of course was in my wheelhouse. It just got really exciting because I had a nest egg there of money, and I didn't have to take it all out. I could take it all out. I had options, and it was really just taking that first step for me. So I'm excited today that we get to introduce the CEO of Vantage IRA, who's become friends with over the years also. So it's an honor to have him with me and Scott today.
Yeah, and as we dive into the concept, I can't think of anybody that could teach it any better.
Truthfully, and down to earth, and just, kind of shares the passion and vision for it. And, I'm still learning on this. And that's the cool thing about it, is I don't have to know the ins and outs. I have someone, a team that, will get me that information and has a lot of great tutorials and things to really make me feel comfortable, because taking your money out of an IRA feels like a scary thing. And I can tell you the majority of people are going to freak out and tell you not to do it. Probably your parents and their parents too. And so, but once you understand it, and I think that's the goal of today, is just to kind of introduce the concept, give you some high level, like what it is and what you can do with it, what your options are. And then, if it piques your interest, we can always go deeper in the subject. But I just want to introduce you to some of these tools out there, because the majority are not. And so, JP, we're excited for the opportunity to have you here. We won't jibber jab here. Let's just get right to it. And if you want to talk a little bit about your story and then a little bit about the self-directed.
Absolutely. So first of all, thanks for having me, Kenny. I really appreciate it, Scott, as well. Listening to what you just shared, I think there's a lot of things that the people listening can align to. And that's, what problem are we trying to solve here? All of us can connect with this problem or this task that we have, is we need to figure out our money. We need to figure out how are we going to try to improve our financial life over time, right? And so we all, I think, can empathize with the how can come later, but we all have to do it somehow, right? We got to figure out how we're going to make more money. Then we got to figure out how to save that money. And we sometimes need to go to other people to get that advice, right? Maybe you have a financial advisor who's going to help you with some of that path. Maybe it's an accountant or a CPA who's going to help you how to save in taxes, because that has an impact on your wealth building strategy. And there's probably plenty of people who are trying to sell you on, this is how you make money, right? There's traditional methods, or what I think have been disguised as traditional methods, which are Wall Street, right? It's like, hey, give us the money, here's some products, set it and forget it. And if you put this money with us long enough, you'll retire. And I think most of the people listening are probably thinking, yeah, that was what I was told. But, there's been some bumps, some good times and some bad times in that storyline. So anytime we're trying to say, okay, my goal is to help Americans understand that there is a systemic problem that exists in the financial industry. Now, all of us have the same problem, which is we need to figure out how to make enough money, save enough money, invest it properly so that at some point in the future, we can have a lifestyle that we want, right, at quote unquote retirement. And if we do it well, maybe we would pass on some of that money to our heirs.
Well, we all ultimately, especially early in your life and as you're building your businesses or working for a company, you're working for your money. You have to go to work to make your money. Once you start getting educated and understanding, like, how do I make my money work for me? And that way I'm kind of double dipping, if you will. And that's where I think the education system doesn't dive into money, not even like a checks and balance, like a debt and asset stuff. And I mean, you look at somebody like Dave Ramsey, right? I mean, he teaches a method that has made millions and millions for him of just spend less money than you make. And we're like, wow, that is so fundamental. Like, how can that sell? Well, it's because people don't always get that. And so, through consumerism or whatever it is, with this tool, what we want to show is, IRAs are great. If you're not doing anything, man, make sure you're putting money. If there's a company match, absolutely. And by the way, even with this program, you can still do that. But learning another tool that can say, hey, put you in some control, because what's your passion? It might be real estate. I mean, I can tell you for me, the first piece of real estate that I bought with my self-directed, I was able to pay cash for the whole property. Now, you can finance, but I did. What I found quickly was that thing was moving up quick. I was collecting rent every month that was going into my IRA, and the home was appreciating. So I'm getting double-edged sword there.
Growth and income.
Oh my gosh. And by the way, I was still going to work every day and earning my money to keep funding it. But all of a sudden it worked a lot faster. Now, again, there's markets, there's ups and downs. Like any investment, if you hold it long enough, things should correct themselves. But yeah, what this can do is interesting. I think that's what we want to share with people is,
Sure.
How do we use this?
Going back to basics, all of us are trying to solve this problem. We are given information around, okay, you're earning money. Best practice is save it, right? Where should I save it? Well, if you want to save some money additionally in taxes, put it in a retirement account, right? So millions of Americans are the first place that they are told, or coached, advised, or learn that makes the most sense is a retirement account, right? Contribution into a retirement account. Now, most Americans have built savings there through 401ks, right? They work at an employer. They're taking some of their salary deductions. They've made the decision to put 5%, 10%, 15%, whatever it is, into this contribution. It's important to mention that just from where you're getting your information from, right? So you have an account, you're putting money. If you're an employee, you say, great, I put the money in, I did my job. Now what are my investment choices, right? Well, because of the 401k, our plan sponsor is ABC Company. You have a list of maybe 10 to 20 mutual funds, Vanguards, Prudential.
Companies you've heard of, right?
And okay, now I'm restricted to those investment options to what my 401k provider is allowing me to put money into. If you leave that employer, you can now roll money into an IRA, right? And most people do that. The balances in IRAs in America are basically from those rollovers, right? People moving jobs, and now the money I was putting in my 401k, I moved it into my IRA, which all that does is it expands your investment list of choices. Now, with traditional brokerage firms and Wall Street, and this is where the aha moment should come in, right? So you have these accounts, retirement plans that the government has put forth. IRAs were created in 1974. 401k is just a little bit earlier than that. But it all came from evolving from what used to be called defined benefit plans, which are like pensions, right? If you talked about your dad and his dad.
Yep.
Well, in their world, it was like, okay, I work for a company, I have a pension. The company's putting money away for me. And if I work at this company long enough, I can retire from this company and they're going to give me some income at my retirement. So a lot of things started to happen over time. People lived longer. Companies that had pension plans were not investing them properly, so they were running out of money. And the government took notice of that and said, we need to come up with a different type of account where we're making the people, the American people, the ones responsible for contributing and investing. So under that framework, okay, just bear with me. Under that framework, you have now as the government creates an account, IRA, individual retirement account, allows you to put contributions into this. Then think about the companies who are offering these accounts. They say there has to be a custodian, technical term for the person that you're cutting your checks to for contributions. They're doing reporting and administrating on that account to report to the government because there is a tax benefit to these accounts, right? So they want to make sure that if Joe Smith, American, is putting $2,000 away into their IRA, that company receiving that $2,000 is reporting that to the government at the same time that Joe on his 1040 is saying, I gave this company $2,000 and I should deduct that dollar from my income, right? So just to give you some tactical information around how this all works, the structure. So back in 1974, 1975, these accounts come out. Every company that's at that time choosing to be a custodian, being approved to hold people's nest eggs, are in the stock market business. You walk into a bank, right? You say, here's my $2,000 contribution, which at the time was the contribution limit. It might have even been $1,000. The banker's saying, well, look, we have some CDs that we can offer you for product. Like, how are you going to make money? You've made the contribution. Now, how are you going to make money with this? And I'm going to give you the list of products that we sell to help you in your investing. So with that kind of benchmark, okay, now you fast forward 45 years from that time. And most Americans, because they're getting the information from these traditional custodians and companies, financial institutions, Charles Schwab, Fidelity, Vanguard, E-Trade, you know the names, right? They are the ones perpetuating, I guess, the fact that if you have this account that we offer, we also are in the business of selling you the investments that you can. So we're going to go back to restricting your choices to the things that we believe are going to make you able to retire. We're also in the business of selling you those products, and we're in the business of selling you the advice on those products. Okay. So I want your audience to just get that information right, to say, okay, where am I getting my information? Because personally, for me, the reason I started this business, I was one of those advisors. I started my entrepreneurial journey as a financial advisor. I was responsible for giving people advice, and you're taught, trained on here's how you help people with their financial planning. Here's the products that we feel are going to be prudent for certain circumstances. And as it relates to retirement accounts, here are the restrictions on what your client can and cannot invest in, right? So as a young advisor, here I am, clients come to me and say, hey, JP, I kind of like real estate. What about some real estate? No, I can't do that. I can't do that, which is in my mind and in my training and in my licensed training, the truth, quote unquote, the truth. I'm giving my client the right information. In order for you to buy real estate, you're going to have to take money out of your retirement account, take a distribution, pay taxes. If you're under the age of 59 and a half, you'll take an additional 10% penalty for early distributions just so you can buy that real estate, or just so you can do anything that's not from the list of products that I'm here to tell you is the best, most prudent thing for you to do with your money. So I was in that situation when a client of mine as an advisor came to me and said, JP, I want to invest in a real estate development project. I want to put $250,000 into this deal that a friend of mine is bringing to the table. However, my liquidity, I have $800,000 with you as your, in my IRA. I want to use the $250,000 from my IRA to do this deal. Now, my client at the time was 51 years old. So I said, sorry, client. As much as you'd want to do this, IRAs are not allowed to invest in that real estate development. And even if they were, the only way for me to do that is to tell you to take the distribution. You're about to add $250,000 to your ordinary income for the year. And since you're 51, I'm going to add 10% penalty. The IRS is going to add a 10% penalty to that. I cannot rightfully advise you to do that. So, and his response changed my life. His response was, there's got to be a way of doing this. He's like, I just don't understand why I have to only invest in the stock market. So JP, your job as my advisor is to try to find a solution. It was an interesting 3 months, right? As you can imagine, for me as an advisor, because I was very confident in my training. I was very confident in what I felt was the truth and what a client could or could not do with these accounts. And serendipity would have it that it was through my frustration, sharing with an attorney, my frustration around this client not letting go of, I have to find a solution, that in sharing that with a friend of mine, an attorney, he said, you know what, JP, I am a part of, ABC group, and we do ABC things. And I think I've heard of, my attorney friend has heard of a company that does this. And I said, okay, well, so I got connected. I got their website. I go to this company's website, and lo and behold, buy real estate with your IRA. Now, keep in mind, I was an advisor at the time. So you can imagine how I felt. My world had been shattered. My world had been, it's like what just happened to like all the training, years of giving people this information, this misinformation. It forced me as an entrepreneur that is there to serve. It kind of made me pivot my career into saying, I need to be part of the solution, not the problem. If I'm an advisor telling people the wrong information, and this has been available for Americans to invest in almost anything with their retirement accounts, stock market based things, of course, and non-stock market based things, of course, I need to be promoting the information. And the good news about self-directed IRAs and companies like Vantage is that we don't sell advice to our clients, and we don't sell products to our customers. We are simply an IRA administrator and a custody firm that is there to do the IRS reporting that's required, to make sure that the valuations on the assets are being done so that the IRS gets what they need from these accounts, right? And ultimately educate Americans about the fact that, look, you've been misinformed. And there are these accounts and there are companies in this country that you can set up these accounts with, and you can do things that you want to do that, that are going to be going back to you. So your example is perfect in that, hey, here, I'm a real estate professional. I believe in real estate. I understand different strategies that I can implement to make money with real estate. But I've been saving money into this account, and putting it in the stock market because that's what I knew was my only option. When you're introduced to this concept that you're hoping that your audience listens to and understands a little bit of is, okay, what's the difference between a self-directed IRA and an IRA? Well, nothing more than a marketing term, right? The account you have currently at whatever financial institution technically can be used to invest. That account can be used to invest in real estate, do private lending, invest in private companies, precious metals. I mean, the list goes on and on. Who is creating the restriction? That's the question.
Okay.
Right? The question is, if I have my account with Vanguard, and JP just told me that I could technically use that money to invest in real estate, why can't I invest my money from the Vanguard IRA? Why do I have to set up another type of account at a different company called a self-directed IRA? It's because there's a big difference between what the government allows you to do with these accounts, the way they've been structured, and what the companies that offer these accounts allow you to do with the money as a client of theirs. You call Fidelity. You say, I want to buy a rental property. They're going to say what I told my client that I told you about, right? They're going to say, can't do that. We don't, can't buy a rental property with your Fidelity IRA. We're not in that business. So here's a list of all the different mutual funds that you can invest in if you'd like to make money, right? And so the main purpose of today, I think, is to rattle people's cages a little bit and say, wow, what information that I think I knew or had been told to be the truth, and what is the actual truth?
One thing I heard early on that you said, and I've been actively listening because I'm learning every time, from all, I'm no expert in every subject. You got to know your craft and know who to resource. But the fact that you were a financial planner and didn't know about self-directed IRA, and I don't know about most people out there, and I like my financial planner a lot, but he didn't introduce me to self-directed IRA. And it makes you realize that we can't always take things on the surface. We have to go get educated on our own. And I've not went to a class, a workshop, a seminar where I haven't walked away with something. I mean, some have been, I wouldn't probably ever go back to, and there's been stuff that I've told people like, you got to come, or I've tried to host them myself. But with this one, it's just very, very interesting. When I found out, boy, I could pay off a credit card and then pay myself the interest back. Or I could pay off a car loan and pay myself the interest back. Like I become my own bank. I thought, why am I giving someone else 7, 8, 9, 10% or whatever the number is? So it's that education. And I think when I listened to you, I was like, so if a financial planner doesn't know about this, how do we expect the general public who is really, I hate to say following the herd, but for those who know my story, I spent 13 years at FedEx. I put 10% away, went to Vanguard, and I didn't even know it was being invested in the stock market, mutual fund. I didn't get educated in that stuff. And truthfully, from an employer, they just tell you to do this, and you hear from people that it's validated, that it's good. And by the way, it is good. It's what's hopefully creating this position for you. But you can have both. You can have one or the other. I just think it's a huge aha when you said you went through training and you were a financial planner and you didn't know about
literally, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 23 years old. I'm a little older than 23 these days, but that's what I'm saying. You can imagine how I felt. I'm in a position. That's like if you have clients, and if I came to you and say, hey, I'm coming to you because I want to invest in mutual funds. You're going to say, hey, listen, JP, I appreciate you, man, but I'm a real estate professional, right? Like I can help you with real estate. My license that I have and the things that I know are about real estate, right? So most financial planners out there they have a license. They have limitations on what they can advise or not give advice on. Just like you're going to say, I'm not going to give you advice on a stock, right? I'm going to give you, I can give you advice on a property, but I can't give you advice on a stock.
Right.
So these advisors, a lot of them, it's not because they're bad people. They're in a system. They're in a structure. They have restrictions. And they're also looking out for their best interest. Let's not forget, right? They're salespeople at the end of the day, right? I was, giving advice. And if you're a fiduciary advisor, and I don't want to get down that route, but my point is I had evolved in my advisory firm from I was working for American Express Financial Advisors. Then I went a little bit more independent, right? Worked with a broker dealer. And then you evolve to the most independent type of advisor, which is a registered investment advisor, where you're not earning commissions, right? You have a fiduciary duty. You're doing what's in the best interest of your client. And I just share that with the audience because most advisors are working under a system. That's why I say it's a systemic problem. Attorneys, CPAs, advisors, all of us have been misinformed. And so all I could do at the time was, divorce myself, because I was like, the system is broken here. I'm supposed to be giving people advice that's in their best interest based on what they're telling me their financial goals are. And I'm supposed to be putting things in front of them that meets their risk tolerance, their appetite, their comfort level, the things they need to do. And I had one arm tied behind my back because I noticed in that little aha moment, like, oh my gosh, I've been mistrained and I'm part of the problem. So I had to create a situation for myself and my business, which completely pivoted and made me feel good about being able to go home and say, look, I can't perpetuate this misinformation any longer. So I got rid of my financial advisory. I got rid of my licenses and I started Vantage. And, I think that the takeaway, hopefully, from this experience share, this personal story that we've both had is, yes, you have to continue to stay curious as any person. But just to give you some statistics, you mentioned most people listening are trying to do the right thing and to solve this problem, which is, look, I need to save money. And if I can save some taxes, great. I'm going to put money in a 401k or I'm going to make a contribution to an IRA. Great job. Now, do you have any appetite? Do you have any knowledge, expertise on any type of how do you make money, right? Because once the money's inside of these accounts, there is a little bit of additional rules that you have to abide by. But the company you choose to have your money with, your retirement plan with, is just important for your audience to know they're also providing additional restrictions that are not laws, right? They're not regulations. They're not government-based rules. It's just company-based guidelines, right? So they didn't mandate that you had to offer clients any way to make money with the retirement accounts, even though you got to dig a little bit deeper and get to a person. Luckily, your audience has you to provide this very informative information with the right resources. The American public has to then say, who do I trust with what information? What's in it for JP to tell me this information? Yeah, we offer these accounts, but we're not trying to tell you buy real estate, buy a loan, do this. we're not incentivized financially one way or another. We're just like, hey guys, we're here, ladies and guys, we're here to educate you. And in the evolution of an investor, if you're listening to this podcast because you're on a journey to educate yourself about things, what are your sources? Number one. And number two, because before I was one of the most important sources a person could come to regarding financial planning. And so that's why it was so disruptive to my emotion, is the evolution of the investor. I say, you start out as a dreamer, but then you go into being a learner. Right. So you're in this process just by listening to this podcast, you're learning something.
And I think that's a big difference from where most people are that have an IRA or have a 401k, because that's where I was before I got into this idea. And it was just kind of, I didn't, you don't know there's more than one company to invest in because it's who they set you up in. You don't know that you have too much choice because every 3 months you get a statement that says, hey, this is what everything did, and have a great day.
Exactly. And don't touch it.
And it's like, so it's my money.
Keep it in our coffers. Keep it in our coffers.
Yeah. It's my money, but I'm not really feeling like it's my money. And it's kind of a monopoly money kind of thing that your hand isn't in it. You're not controlling it. You don't have any choices.
You don't have access to the people who are making the investment decisions with the portfolio
or
managers.
even have an understanding. Okay, so this mutual fund, what is it? And heck, I might be investing in real estate. They might be invested in REITs, and I just don't even know it. I have no idea what any of this is.
Well, I think the big difference too is that, in the first one, it's really managed for you, and in a sense, you can't really screw it up. You put money in, and when I say screw it up, you just kind of follow along with it, and if the market does this or does this, it is what it is. I think the people who are trying to build wealth and get educated and take the next step understand, well, if I self-direct my IRA, and I think the reason companies and mainstream doesn't teach it goes back to my Dave Ramsey comment, right? Spend less money than you make. Mm-hmm. It's because if most people were empowered with their money, they would go buy it on consumer products and things that end up in a landfill within a year or two. And so they lose the value themselves through an IRA. I think the next level is getting to a self-directed. It becomes with a lot of responsibility too, or a responsibility. Mm-hmm. Where are you investing that money? So having your trusted advisors around you that can help educate you on, is real estate a good investment for my self-directed? Should I pay off some debt and use some of that money to put interest back in? And then once I get those paid off, then where can I take my money? Again, the general public probably fails at this, is why I would think that they don't make it more mainstream. Mm-hmm. Like FedEx didn't say, hey, you can have this or you can have a self-directed IRA. Which one do you want? Because I think that comes with a lot more responsibility because you're empowering people to make decisions. If people are educated and understand how it works, it's like the light bulb goes off and you're like, well, what was I thinking? Like, I can get myself out of debt with my own money. I can put it back in. And by the way, if I decide I'm good, I can move it back into a traditional IRA. So it's just more flexibility. But the truth of it is, why we want to start educating people, at least on this topic, or introduce it, is because it comes with more financial responsibility. But the way to build wealth and success is to get more financially knowledgeable. I mean, we didn't learn this stuff in school. A lot of us didn't learn it from parents and family. And then there's so many gimmicks and scams out there that people just turn it off. Yeah. And as a trusted advisor I feel like a lot of great people for a long time, I feel like it's a responsibility to at least pique people's interest. And if they want to go further, man, you've got the resources. I mean, I've been with you guys over a decade myself. Mm-hmm. So, this isn't like a fly-by-night. This isn't something, and it is legit. It's one of those things almost like when it sounds too good to be true, right? People are like, well, wait a minute. Right. And so I think that financial responsibility that comes with a self-directed IRA is why it's probably not taught mainstream, but the people who are building new wealth, if you ask them, most of them know about a self-directed IRA.
So that's interesting. Most people know what a 401k is. They know what an IRA is for the most of the basics, right? And so going back to the evolution of an investor, you have the dreamer, then you have the learner, then you have the earner. I'm going to go earn some money. Then I got to save. That's the fourth stage of becoming an investor. You have to save money. Then you can finally evolve, get fully stand up as a human and say, okay, now I get to decide where to put this money, right? And what I want the audience to hear is I need to know myself enough to understand. Now, in the stock market, you mentioned, typically what you're trained to do is like, look, I got this tool called the 401k. I'm going to kind of put it in there to tell me to put it in there. You might ask a buddy from your company and say, hey, what did you put it in? And
right.
I'm checking off the same things. With money, it's so personal, right? That a lot of people, they do the easy way, which is where's the easy button? Okay, am I just going to put my buddy put, or I'm just not going to, they told me just to put it and set it and forget it and not really think about it. And at some point something happens where we're like, oh, of course it comes with responsibility. Who should care more about your nest egg than you, right? Now, there's going to be people willing to help you if you want to invest in the stock market. There's also going to be people that want to help you if you want to invest it in other things beyond the stock market, i.e. real estate, right? There's plenty of people who can educate, coach you, advise you on different potential strategies, but it's still up to you to decide what's right for me. So the connection here is, and give you some more statistics, this is the one that kind of drives me a lot, is there's over $25 trillion currently held within retirement plans or accounts inside of the United States. $25 trillion. Less than 2% of that money is invested outside the stock market. So this is, an issue. 40% of Americans have an IRA. 70% of American households have a 401k or a retirement plan. So I'm talking, the people who are listening are saying, yeah, I got one of those, right? They got one of those. But I thought I could only invest it in these mutual funds, right? My employer's saying I got to pick one of these 10 mutual funds. And sometimes that's the truth. If you're working at a company and that's the plan they offer, those are your restrictions. So part of this conversation, I think, is to empower you with this information to say, when is it appropriate to consider a quote unquote self-directed IRA? Now, why do we call it a self-directed account? If you go to our website, there's a traditional IRA, there's a Roth IRA, there's a SEP IRA, there's a simple IRA. You can open any of these retirement account IRA accounts that we offer. My industry put the term self-directed as a marketing term just to try to inform with that label who's responsible for the decisions and the choices that you're making. If you call E-Trade today or you call Fidelity, you might tell them, oh, we have a self-directed IRA account. You can self-direct into any mutual fund that we offer. It's kind of back to like Henry Ford, a famous quote that I love from him is like, when he started making the Model T, it was like, you can make any color you want as long as it's black, right? So I want to make sure that your audience understands that the accounts we offer at Vantage, they're called self-directed, but ultimately what we are as an industry, and again, there's only about 45 companies in the country that offer truly self-directed accounts that allow you to put that money to work outside the stock market. That's part of the reason that there's that big discrepancy between 25 trillion and 2%, right? That we're a small industry. And you might ask yourself, well, why? Why is there more, not more? Well, there's a little bit of, like any business model, right? Everyone's got their model, and there's some, hurdles to get into certain industries and become a custodian and, regulatory things and stuff. But aside from that, it's, if you call my office and you have, like you do, an account with us, you say, well, now if I want to invest, like I did a deal with real estate and it went great. I sold it for a great profit, but, now I want to put the money into the stock market. Can you help me? We're going to tell you the same thing that Fidelity would tell you on the stock market. I'm like, no, we only deal. A self-directed IRA company is one that only deals with assets that are alternatives to the stock market. The stock market, Wall Street firms, they're dealing with self-directed IRAs we only help our clients choose things that are in the stock market. We all have our business model. Now, can you have an account that allows you to have one company and do both things? You can, but there's some steps to take to structure now your account in a way where you could have an entity that allows you to have a brokerage account to invest in stock, bonds, and mutual funds, and still also make investments in real estate and some other things that are beyond the stock market. So I think hopefully that gave everybody a little bit of the basics. First message, ever since 1974, when these accounts started, you could invest outside the stock market with these accounts, period. You get the same tax benefits, same contribution limits. It's just a matter of once the money's in the account, where do I want to put it? And I think for most of our clients, it's not about having unlimited choices with their money. They just want to be able to use their account to put the money where they want, right? You said, hey, if I can put money into a private loan, if I could put money into real estate, that's what I want to put my money into. So if I can use now this money that I've saved in my retirement account and put it in what I want, and it's tax favored, and I'm not paying capital gains taxes, or I'm even if it's a Roth IRA, you're telling me, JP, that I can invest, make money in the things that make me comfortable and where I can understand what's going on with the money and I have more control, like Scott mentioned, or and I get the tax benefits. Tell me more about that, right? So I think we attract more of the people who are already hoping that they could use these accounts that way. And that's kind of how I was. It was like, it's not about pitching unlimited choices to people. It's, do you know where you would like to put your money?
Right.
And if the answer is yes, JP, and I'd like to do it in ABC strategy, but that's not the stock market, then a self-directed IRA might be a good option for you to consider, because you can do that strategy in it, whatever what it is, and do it on a tax-favored basis as long as you're working with one of those 45 companies that allows for you to give them that direction and then administer the account and do the IRS reporting that's required.
Well, I know there's things you can and can't do with it. I think for today's conversation, we're probably worn some people out with information and the concept. It's kind of like mind-blowing. So, my guess is hopefully we'll be able to get you back in, and maybe we can deep dive a little bit further into actionable items, talk about more what we can and can't do with that money, whether it's real estate, whether it's other things like that, and other things that, are more specific for those who want to go the next step.
I want to just make sure, before we finalize our conversation, is because most of the time, the next question is, so how does it work, JP? Like, okay, we've heard, now it's available, it's legal, whatever. So what are the mechanics? So I just want to go over those easy steps, if you will, right?
Okay.
If that's okay?
Yes.
Yeah, so the first step is, of course, to open an IRA account with a self-directed IRA company that offers a self-directed, but that their business model is to allow you to put that money outside the stock market. So it's just literally like opening up an account at a bank, right? You're opening up another IRA account, and then you have to fund that account. There's 3 ways to fund that account, right? You can either roll over money from a 401k of a previous employer. That's one.
Which
Number
is what
2,
I did. Yep.
transfer. The word is transfer money from an existing IRA account to your self-directed IRA account. So
that's what I did.
Which is what Scott did. So you maybe already did a rollover from before into a Fidelity IRA. Now you got the money in an IRA with Fidelity. So great. You don't have to move all the money from Fidelity. You get to decide how much of the money that I have at Fidelity IRA do I want to move in to invest outside the stock market. So you fulfill a transfer form and the money comes over. And the third way you can fund the account is through a contribution, right? So that's a pretty easy one to understand. Every year you want to put additional money in. You can, up to a certain annual limit, depending on the account you have a contribution limit. You can make a contribution. So now, that was step 2, right? Now we've funded the account. I have money in this self-directed account. Number 3 is choose your investment, right? At the end of the day, you've got to now decide, am I the person that's going to go out and identify an investment opportunity for me? I'm going to call Kenny and his team to, hey, I want to invest in real estate. I need to understand the rental property market, or I want to do some different creative things, or maybe I'm going to be the lender for your next investor, and I'm going to, however you guys can help them. So it's identifying the investment and then directing a company like Vantage to say, hey, now I found my deal. Now send the money from my self-directed IRA to close on this deal that I have. So those are the easy steps. Once you've purchased something, you just got to make sure you, from an affordability perspective, you have enough money to pay for expenses, right? So depending on what you purchase, just know that you got to make sure you maintain that asset from the money inside of your retirement account, right? And that's pretty much it. I mean, those are the mechanics of how does this work. It's really just a matter of, it's almost like if you were, and I always like to use this example, and I'll just be clear, easy with it. Let's just use ice cream as the example, right? And let's assume that almost every single ice cream shop in the country only offered chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry flavors, right? So if I said, what's your favorite type of ice cream? Okay, well, chocolate. Right? From those three choices, JP, I like chocolate. And then you say, but if you really are asking me, JP, I kind of like pistachio. That's actually something, yeah, but I can't seem to find a company, an ice cream shop in America that offers me that flavor. And then all of a sudden your friend, Kenny, says, hey, JP, I found an ice cream shop that offers pistachio. If you want to go, let's go check it out, right? That is what the world that I'm in. We're all talking ice cream here. We're all talking IRAs here, right? Traditional custodians, they're going to say chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry. For those of you that want something, a different flavor, you've got to go to the shop. You got to drive yourself to the shop. You got to go to that business and say, great, what flavors do you offer me? I came here for pistachio. Great, we offer that option, right? Then you're going to be happy, right? Because you've now connected your appetite for something to that business. And that's the business that we're in. Once that's done, you kind of understand that that's about as complicated as it gets, right, with this concept. Then I think the conversation the next time I'm here can go about, okay, now what ways can I extract? Can I pay cash, co-investment, or through a loan, right, through actual lending, which those are the only the same ways you can invest outside of your retirement account, you can invest inside of your retirement account. So I'll leave you with that just so that, I know it's a lot to digest. And it's like, oh my God, you mean I can actually leverage my IRA? The answer is yes. Do you mean that me and Kenny can partner together on a deal, whether it's directly on the property or through an LLC and then invest in the property? The answer is yes. Or if you have enough money and you could take down, like you did, Kenny, the entire property with cash out of your IRA, you can do that too. So I always try to say there's just a ton more to learn here, except the same things I can do outside of my IRA or retirement account, I can do inside for the most part, right? As far as structuring and things and affordability and getting my money to work. And then the only thing that really matters to the government is that you're not trying to, break tax laws. So it's really more about, in our next conversation, we could talk a little bit about what the do's and don'ts, so that your audience understands.
Well, we're going to have to pick this up later, no matter what, because all this ice cream talk. I got to get to Thrifty for some chocolate malted crunch before they close.
JP, what's the best way they can get a hold of you if they have questions?
VantageIRAs.com is our website. VantageIRAS as in Sam.com. For those of you, of course, you can call us 480-306-8404 is our phone